Hello, and welcome back to Elliott's podcast. Everything is very different right now, completely different in many different ways. And first of all, I want to talk to Samson. Samson, fly me to the moon. If you're not seeing this on, let me adjust my levels a bit. If you're not seeing this on video, there's a mic stand here. Everything's different. I'm in the office studio space to record, and Teddy's down there in the basket playing with some toys. Let's see how long it takes before he has a freak out at the door. But the other thing is, I'm in a different room. There's a dog in a basket. And Samson, I want to talk to Samson. So Samson is this boom stand. I'm trying out this setup, and the microphone's different. So this episode would sound completely different than other episodes, and I don't really expect that people go through my episodes and binge like a Game of Thrones. But it's different because this type of microphone is actually the most common. It's going to make a bit of noise if I take the pop filter off, but I'll take its pants off. And now you would see it looks very familiar. This microphone is the most common microphone that you see in concerts. I'll get this back on. So this sock on it, I mean, the microphone is so good at blocking pops and stuff that you probably don't even need this sock, but I think it adds to the mystique of the podcast. But the most common podcast microphone you see out there is the Shure SM7B, and this microphone is the SM58. And it's 1/5 the price, and people like me have them lying around anyways. So I experimented with that. It does need something to make it work for this, which is something called a cloud lifter, which is a piece of a plug. It's a plug that just makes for extra oomph power, because otherwise it's meant to be powered by like a mixer at a concert venue. And so the beauty of the microphone is that the room that I'm in is very echoey. You can see a mirror behind me, so it's not a good pick for the other type of microphone I have. Will pick up a lot of extra stuff. And these microphones, the Shure ones that I've been talking about, are good for this. Like, I can have all kinds of noise in the background and it won't really pick it up. It's supposed to pick up really what's right in front of it and what's kind of yelling at it. So that I just thought I'd share that, because a lot of people are interested with Zoom videos, and everyone wants to have their own podcast. They want to be like me. I think it's becoming kind of like the way that Adobe apps are at one point people would say you need to know how to use Office and Excel to work here, and now it's like you need to learn how to use Adobe, and now Canva has come along. And I think the very much an extension of that is like you need to learn how to use a microphone with all these Zoom meetings if you want to look good and sound good. I'm not saying I look good, but I do run this. So this setup, this is worth mentioning now, is that this setup is designed, and I'm going to play some music that I recorded on this setup last night. This setup is an effort to make it easier for me to record stuff, because the other setup, which I do in the bedroom, which is good for with the louder music and singing and everything, that takes more work to execute, because I have to carry stuff over there, set it up. There's no real tables for anything. And so I figured if I just, I think I watched some, you know what I did? I watched some videos by gamers, kid gamers lately. And I really want to make some videos where I'm in Roblox, like the virtual version of me is in Roblox, and I want to make, and so I was watching gamer videos, and they all have these desk setups, and so I'm actually just renting this Jamson stand. I was lucky that I could find it to rent, because I'm very big on renting gear so that you can try it out and see if it works for you, and also renting things that don't cost a lot of money is really fun to do. And so the goal is that my camera, which is a Sony ZV-1, is plugged in. Everything is being recorded in one spot on a PC laptop, and that makes it very easy. So when I hit stop, I will have everything ready to go I just have to then do a little bit editing in Premiere to fix put the music in, the performances. And so that's the goal, is just to make things easier. So I also have my iPad out to talk about what's on tap for today. So I had an incident this week with a hard drive that is, I wouldn't say completely crashed, but it's not behaving well, and it was a frustrating situation, and it highlighted a big problem I had with my setup, which was my main computer is a MacBook Air, and it has a dongle. Like MacBook Airs have 2 ports on them, the old MacBook Airs, and it has a dongle on it that is what provides USB ports. So I would have a sound card and a hard drive often attached to this dongle, and I think unplugging and plugging things into the dongle was jolting the hard drive, and it went into this state that where the Mac has trouble reading it. And I did a lot of work on, there were times when it did show the files, and I stupidly didn't take them while I saw them. But I have faith that they're there. And some people are like, no, they're not there. Someone who knows hard drive crashes with corruptions. But the point of this story is that I had to, it was quite distracting, because there was definitely like a whole day that it took up. I was just doing all these commands that you use to try to mount a hard drive. And I the only coping mechanism that I could come up with was I had to like think of a character in a TV show that I've been watching lately that I find funny. So I can't really call up the Seinfeld characters; they're stored way back. But been watching Superstore lately again, and I'm on a later season, so I'm getting near the end of the show. And there's this character named Marcus who started out, who wasn't really that funny earlier on, but he keeps, I'm laughing right now thinking about him. He keeps getting funnier. And so when I was going through this thing with the hard drive, I just called to mind Marcus and just some of the stuff he says. And I had to try to have a laugh, because it is a little ridiculous. And thankfully the hard drive, if it did fully crash, it's actually not that big a deal. It's not, I'm not going to be losing killer stuff. But it is either way, it's just annoying, because you know every time you deal with hard drives, you know that you have to back them up. And on top of it, I did do a workshop last year where someone who works with a lot of photography, she was trying to teach about setting up a RAID, which is where you have multiple hard drives that copy what's on each other's on the other drives. I think you call it redundancy or something. And I kept thinking to myself, oh, she's really going off on these raids, and it just didn't interest me. And now I understand the importance of it. But if we go back to what I was saying before, the real problem is that I had this dinky MacBook Air setup, and nowadays I've been actually working on this PC. It's a kind of a gamer PC, and I'm much happier because it actually has a lot of USB. It has all the ports. It has USB ports, Ethernet ports, HDMI port. Like, I think the Mac really I'm starting to think that Apple regressed a lot, but I think MacBook Pro would do the trick. It would take care of a lot of things I'm talking about. MacBook Air was meant to sort of be this portable computer, and I kind of overused it. But I will say that this gamer PC is probably in the same price range as the MacBook Air, and it just smokes the thing out of the water. Smoke on the water. And it has a good video card too. So, and it's been helping a lot to make videos, and I am able to, when I edit a video, and it's time to render, it just spits the video out fairly quickly, considering this is a laptop and not a desktop. So again, back to the whole point of the story was, if you are in a stressful, especially with technology, I've made videos about this before. If you are in a sort of stressful state, the reason why the laughter is important is because the technology is not the point of everything that we do, and it seems to take over a lot of our days, and most people now don't really deal with they'll deal with an opposite problem, because a lot of people's stuff is sitting in cloud storage. So the opposite problem is dealing with cybersecurity and hackers and everything that goes in that side of things. But the technology is I'm trying to watch him. He's sniffing the router. I'm pretty sure he's safe from getting a shock. I put kitty plugs on things, but that's Teddy. But what was I thinking about? I totally lost my train of, the technology. So there's this whole exercise you can do actually, which is thinking about how ancient the technology, like how many years it took for like the metals to be formed in the universe, and that made all these things, in the microphone cable, it's all like space dust, and we get wrapped up in it. So on one hand, the technology is like amazing in this way that it where did it come from, and how long did it take? And then on the other hand is it's not everything. And that's a very weird thing to work through, but that's why I think laughter is one of the only things. So I would say the laughter applies to any conundrum you have, because we have to put things in a bigger picture when we have like a stressful moment. Is just like, how did we end up here? And the laughter I think it really helped. It helped get me off of the hard drive, the loop that was going on in my head about can I get this hard drive fixed? And I was quick to be able to continue doing the work I needed to do with another hard drive that I already have. So I just wanted to share that bit with you. I've heard a lot about laughter therapy in the past, and I just happened to use that trick. Kind of came out of nowhere for me. It was like all I could think about was like, how do I stop thinking about this hard drive? And so yeah, think of a character from a show that I also had been watching a few Three Stooges movies lately, or they're all skits, and that's pretty good too. They are so wacky, and so you can just picture like Larry's head in a piano. That was one of them, was music. Larry, Curly, Moe, I don't know. So and try to watch some comedy throughout the day too, I think is a good thing to add in. If you can get a few little skits in, it really, really lightens up the mood here, especially with the pandemic still going on year 2. Okay, the next thing is, so I have some blog posts that I've posted lately, but you know what, maybe I'll let's play the first piece of music. I think that'd be nice to do. So this one is, I'll call it Jamson for now. It's a jam, but it's just to explain what's happening is two things kind of happened in one swift move. Is I've been playing my acoustic guitar lately. It's my first guitar, and I'm experimenting with lower tunings of it. So it's almost somewhere in between a bass and a guitar, and so that's been something I've been playing with. And if for some reason this guitar works well for this style that I'm working on. And then I've also been able to get the looper going in Ableton Live, and I can't really go into too much detail with that, but I've had a lot of challenges finding the right looping setup, and I think I'm getting a lot closer. So that's what's happening in this piece. I'm getting the jam, the looping going with the acoustic guitar. So let's play that, and then I'll be back. I'll need some tea when I come back. So okay. And we're back. I have my tea. Tonight's tea is called Restful Sleep. Teddy got a drink of water. Restful Sleep by Yogi. And it's made in Eugene, Oregon. It has a lot of ingredients: chamomile, spearmint, licorice, lemongrass, skullcap, lavender, peppermint, valerian root, passion flower. So those are non-medicinal ingredients, none. This thing is supposed to pack a wallop. Restful sleep. And the you know how like some of the wellness teas have a quote in them? This one says, "May all beings be happy." So that's a nice little message. Hey, Teddy, get out of there. I don't know what he's doing. Let me check the floor, make sure there's nothing for him to. Yeah, I like sleepy time type teas. I just think if you're going to drink a tea in the nighttime, why not try to put it to use and make you a bit more tired. So just to go over some of the blog posts, you might want to read them. One of them is about waking up early, and I was talking about this with a friend this week. A lot of people want to get like a side project done, and they just can't get it done. And then if you might find that you or whoever, you can't find the time to get it done, but you also sleep in close to the time it's time to go to work. So especially working from home, you can push that to pretty close. So I would say the best recommendation I have is waking up early, and this blog post goes over some of my methods for doing that, and it's very extensive. But the biggest thing is that you need to get a lot of light immediately. So light switch. I think I actually remember. I think I talked about it before in this podcast. But just make sure you get a lot of light, and if there's a partner in the bedroom with you, then you have to get out of that room quickly so that you can get to the light, and you also need to get to warmth because your prehistoric brain is trying to find the comfort. It's running the show. And so that makes it very hard to wake up. But I also have a lot of other techniques in this post that people can try. One of them is doing a dress rehearsal the night before of what will happen when your alarm goes off. So you lie in bed for 10 minutes with an alarm, and then you pop out of the bed like it's the next morning. And you might laugh, but that technique actually works quite well. Also, writing down everything that you plan to do after you wake up, like in step-by-step form. That's another one. And then the big one that I do lately is I use an app called Streaks. I think it's called Streaks. Strides I use, and it helps track, you tick off a box each day that you get the thing done. And so I I've done. So what happens is if I my goal would be 3 days in a row waking up without snoozing, and then if I hit 3, that meter gets moved up to 7 days or something, and then maybe you can even get to a month without snoozing. And so that's what that post is. Picking a projects to work on. So often we've got a bunch of things that we're juggling, and I know the answer would typically be you work on the thing that is most burning and you're most passionate about getting done. And this could be like, let's say I have 2 songs to work on. Which one will I work on? And I think the problem is that the picking between the 2 things is a problem, and it's a problem in itself, because then you've given yourself an excuse for not doing it. So that blog post, I give the example: pick a card, any card. The old magic trick type, or card tricks usually start with that sort of, with that quote. And yeah, I think it's really important to just get going, and then you will naturally say, okay, I don't, if you were trying to pick a certain type of project that you prefer doing, yeah, you might, this pick a card, any card method might be a little disappointing, because you will start working on something and then not like it. But I think it's a good entry point, because a lot of times the real problem is we're stagnant, and the real battle is against screen time. That's the real problem. So if you do this idea of pick anything and get started and get moving, then I think you're getting ahead of kind of the languishing on screens type of thing. That is, I would say, the biggest problem. And the other thing I will tack on to that is work quickly. So this week I posted a video on Instagram of me. I'm trying out this thing where I play guitar, and I also kick a cajon at the same time. It's a really fun sound, because I got this driving beat, and I'm doing everything. And I posted the video this week, and what I did is I said I'm going to just record it and post it, and because maybe sometimes I think about wanting to post a video and I don't really do it. And then in this case, I said, I'm posting it, and working quick is a good way to get past the critic that says, it's got to be a little better. And to be honest with you, the video I posted isn't amazing, because it's got some good parts to it, but there's a few things in there that are not congruent with the way I'm training myself to play and perform. So now it doesn't really matter, because now I know next time I do a video, I'm going to make sure to watch out for certain things that I'm watching for. And I happen to have done, quote unquote, done it in public. And I think it was a good win. And that was another good example of get things moving, get things going fast. And I have another post about taking an inventory of your skills. And so that post, finally I can have a sip of this tea. That post is about being honest with your skills, seeing where you need to improve, but doing it in a very calm way, and not saying, damn it, I suck at arpeggios. I need to get better at those. And the point of all this is to do it in a light form. And I think the example that I gave is the way someone reads the weekend newspaper. You don't read every word carefully and really get angry about everything. The weekend newspaper tends to be a little lighter. I mean, it might be talking about some darker issues, but the format is, sadly, the way we read the news, I hate to admit it, even very serious and dark news is also read with a lot of casual approach. So, but I just wanted to give one example of an activity where we take a light mentality. You take a light approach, and you you just go over, okay, I need to get a little better at this, and my plan for doing that is this. And the example I gave is that I'm interested in animation. I've always loved animation, and I always want to incorporate it into my work. But I always, every time I open up After Effects, I'm like very overwhelmed with just where to go, what to do. But if you break down learning skills, you can, and you work within the confines of your skills. So rather than try to think that you're going to make a Disney looking and Pixar animation in After Effects by yourself, considering they have a team of probably thousands of people, those credits go on at the end of a movie. To think that you're going to do anything of that, or even those fancy motion graphics people online, you're not going to get there that quickly. But don't let that stop you from going really deep into the kind of beginner's skill. And so I thought that's worth checking out too. I have actually this is a good, I have a book that I've been reading. I forgot to bring it in here with me, but so maybe I'll just flash the cover on the screen. It's called Dirty Birds, and Morgan something. Let's check it out. Let's see who the author's name. Morgan Murray, Dirty Birds. It's the book cover looks like this, and it's a Canadian book that's, see, it's funny to recommend this book because I don't know if people outside of Canada will get like half of the references, but I don't know if that should stop people. I mean, I don't even know where how far out of Canada it's available, but the book is like super, I'd say hilarious. Like almost every page has some really funny stuff in it. And it's about a guy named Milton, Ontario, who's not from Ontario. He's from Saskatchewan province, but his name's Milton, which is the name of a town in Ontario. And he heads out to Montreal in the late 2000s to become a poet. And the characters that I've seen so far, it took me a while to get like past the first few chapters, because I was like, I'm not sure if I really like this book. And it was recommended to me by someone who works I go to a bookstore called Type Books in Toronto, and I often ask the people what they recommend based on some stuff that I tell them that I like. And so this was recommended to me, and if you might know from previous episodes, I'm very slow at reading fiction. I have a hard time getting through. It takes me a while to get into fiction books. I can read nonfiction fairly good degree of ease, but the fiction I have trouble with. But this book, so it took me a while to get into it, and it starts with him in Saskatchewan, and the gist is he's supremely a loser. I hate to say it in such a form, but the author is doing that. But stories about the loser, you really do, you come to love. And I think Napoleon Dynamite is kind of that type of story and setup. But the other thing about the book is that it's kind of highlighting like how everyone that's headed out to Montreal in this era, and it still would be this way. It's because that's sort of the city that attracts the artists in Canada, and it's the lifestyle is very like broke artist and like all kinds of random roommates, and that's what this guy finds himself in a situation of. Crusty apartments that don't cost much to live in. That was sort of, and the reason why I'm going over this that was sort of the dream when I was younger. That was the sort of that was the situation. I didn't ever move to Montreal, but I understood that was kind of, for anyone who did go there, that was the lifestyle. And I really like that someone has written a book that goes into that era. And I actually think that Montreal still, I go there every few years or whatever for Mutech Festival, but I still think Montreal has a lot of that, like, and it's kind of, it can be overwhelming for people to be like, it's funny, you can never have it like in a perfect form. And I'll explain this, is that if you're in the city of Toronto, it's not really an artist's city. A lot of talent has definitely come out of Toronto, but the general structure of Toronto is very, what is the structure of Toronto? Toronto is an amalgamation of everything, but in the terms of Canada, it's kind of known as this commerce center, and the big banks, and maybe you find people in the advertising industry, and it's very business centered, but there are a lot of creative people here and creative pockets, but it's typically not it's not really what, when you go to Montreal, you can feel the artiste. So here's why I'm saying that you can't really have it both ways. You live in Toronto, you'd say, oh, I wish it was more artist type city. But then if you lived in Montreal, you would say, there's too many artists here. It's nauseating. It's everyone's too, and then on top of it in Montreal, it's very much linked to academia. So a lot of the art takes on this conceptual form, and everyone's trying to carve out a stake, stake some ground in being this unique artist. And I think overall I've been happy with being in Toronto. I think anyone needs to learn how to be happy, not just happy is the wrong word, but being able to function creatively wherever you are, and not to think, oh, I need to live in this bit in the center of wherever. Now, I understand that it probably helps to live in New York or Los Angeles in general, and I have sometimes thought about that common exodus, and that's what the book Dirty Birds is also kind of referring to, is that this lead character is Milton. He is from small town Saskatchewan, and this move to Montreal is like, it's the only option he has, really. And I think that happens a lot probably in the States, is everyone flocks from these smaller places, and they just gotta sink or swim in the big city. And so, yeah, needless to say, it's been really funny book, and I recommend it, but I'm having trouble recommending it to people, even Americans. But I can't really be worried about if you're going to be able to get all the references. I think you would actually maybe learn a lot about Canada and our cultural world from reading a book like this. But just the subtleties of someone's name, Milton, Ontario, it really hits you home. And that's what's kind of fun about reading books from your country, is it's a chance. Like, a lot of the blurbs on the book compare him to like being Canada's Morgan, to being Canada's Kurt Vonnegut. And I've enjoyed a lot of Kurt Vonnegut's books, but they are definitely from a time and place and era that I can't really relate to in almost any way. But when people would have been reading Vonnegut or there's another author that I'm trying to think of, and he is Charles Bukowski, you would have, like, if you were reading those authors in that time period, it's funny now. Well, in the case of both authors, there's a lot of stuff in their books that is not really acceptable by today's standards, and so that's a whole other topic. But they hold up, and you can read them and enjoy the characters and everything. But to have read them at that time would have been and to understand all the references would have been probably pretty priceless. Because if you can see, if it's funny now, it must have been super funny then. So anyways, yeah, that was the book Dirty Birds, and I recommend it, by Morgan Murray. Yeah, just quickly, I'm using Notion on my iPad. That's Notion. I think it's the best app for organizing files and different things. And yeah, I think it's what do I organize in here? Like you can set up spreadsheets. Like a page can be anything. It can be a spreadsheet. It can be a board similar to Trello. That's what I guess called Kanban. And then it can be in just normal notes. And then the thing is that they're in a tree structure. So they can be embedded underneath each other in like, what would you call that? Like a Russian doll hierarchy. And so I've gone through phases though where I stop using Notion and then I come back to it. So just so you know what I'm reading on the iPad, because what I can do in Notion is you can set up templates so that, for example, if it's the podcast and I have notes for the podcast, I can, every time I hit new note, it will remind me if I need to talk about certain things. And so speaking of reminding myself to talk about certain things, don't forget I have a Patreon, and it's still in the early stages. So at the moment, the base level is $3 a month, but I think the strategy is that I have to, as I grow it this year in 2022, is I have to, I guess, gradually raise the price for that base tier, because the goal is that I share all my different music, exclusive music in there. And I will say, like, I have been thinking about some of that stuff lately, because I just recently renewed my DistroKid subscription, which allows me to upload music to Spotify and all the streaming services. And I have to pay $45 for the year. And it's kind of funny because on one hand, that's a pretty good price. Like my music can be, and you can, if you want to use my music on your TikTok or on your Instagram reel, you just search my name and you can use it. And like that happens because of DistroKid. So it's a very good service. I don't get me wrong, but when I think about the Spotify issue, and this is not Spotify's fault. This is a Elliott fault that what I'm getting at is that I pay money to be on Spotify, but I don't make any money. But Patreon allows you to make, I don't want to say earn a living, but so many different models allow you to get towards something where it becomes more of a career than Spotify. And the reason why I'm going off on this tangent is that I'm not really envisioning, like, you need a lot of listeners in general to make a career out of music, or any media format. You need to have that threshold. But I think what I'd prefer to do is build a small following of people that really, really like what I do, and it'll to get to where I want to go, I think it has to be a bit of column A and a bit of column B. But the point of all this is that with Spotify, and similarly to be a YouTuber, you need a lot of people. You need like massive threshold to treat that as a viable business. And Patreon allows you to envision a way. And I would say another area too is selling products and courses. Those are also methods for making it viable. But or you could just say you're going to make a living because of the NFT thing, but that's really just, it's in such an early stage that it's, to think that that's a strategy is I don't really know how to put it. It's speculative. It's something for an artist to experiment with, but not necessarily to count on. And so anyways, that's my spiel about the thing. And just because I thought about it this week, and you never know, I could one day have a lot of Spotify listens that brings in income that helps pay for all the gear and stuff. But it's, at the moment, it's not gonna, I just now I'm thinking about people who are spiritually bent. They might be saying, well, they're watching me saying that is probably making that happen as well. So that's actually a learning point to hear myself saying that the Spotify thing is not going to happen. But I will tell you one more thing before I play the final performance piece. Is the other thing that I find very difficult with the Spotify thing is that I just don't feel like I can upload the most rawest music. And that's what I'm working on doing, is I want to upload I once heard an album uploaded to Spotify that was recommended on a jazz blog, and the performance sounded like someone's phone being held up at a concert at a bar. And I loved it. I thought that was the best, that I could hear such a low quality sound on Spotify as treated as an official release. And that inspired me to say, I want to start uploading crap to Spotify, because I want to break this barrier that we get into, which is like, we think that it has to be super of this like pristine quality, and then you can't unravel the ball of yarn when everything's so gentle. And that's why I think we see such good stuff coming in from social, is that people are able to experiment. They're covering anything they want to cover. The videos are lo-fi, and I think that's the character that I'm trying to get at, is what I want. And so when you add those last two items that I've just been talking about, when you add them up, you can see why I maybe get a little annoyed and negative about Spotify. But I'm hoping to change that. I mean, I really do love the service. I know it gets so much flack, especially because the CEO now invests in like military technology. It's just, everyone loves to hate on Spotify, and I don't really agree. I think that I don't want to get too far into that, but I'll just tell you from my own perspective. I use Spotify. I listen to a lot of music that helps inspire me. Different classical music and jazz and retro and old, and going way back to like gramophone style 1930s blues. There's such amazing compilations that you can find. It's just, that's my perspective of Spotify. I don't really listen to it and then feel like I'm getting into this thing where I'm ripping off artists and the artists that are out there complaining about not making any money from it and the royalty payouts. That's not really what I come from, even though I kind of did mention a bit of that. The onus of all this stuff is on the artist to use technology for seeing what's the good in it. And the good in Spotify is that, and this is why it was important that I keep renewing and keep adding music in there and uploading, is because the onus on the artist is to get their music out there and to get it heard, and to work with the stream of water is what I'm referring to. Work with the river rather than pushing and making, and that's the other movement, which is to only put stuff up on Bandcamp or something. And I have considered that idea, and that's what the Patreon offers, is this exclusive wall. But in general, you want to be able to do your best to show up, and you have music on YouTube and Spotify, and I know a lot of older artists they don't really agree with this way of working, where you just basically are beyond exploited, because you're not going to see much more than $3 from a typical indie artist in playback royalties when you're at 0.0 something. But the point is that you don't fixate on what's missing and what's wrong, and you instead fixate on your own ability to show up and do work and to make music. In my case, it's, if you want to cry about, I hate to use that word, and it's a little rude and disparaging to people who are genuinely annoyed with big tech companies, but if that's your way of working, I don't really know how inspired you are to make music, and why are you, who and why or what are you here for, is some stuff that comes to mind. And I guess I will wrap up by mentioning, like, what would the Grateful Dead do is a good question. I think they would have put all their shows on Spotify. They were all about this free access, and they had something there, and I always turn to the jam band idea when I'm kind of, well, that tea's gone very nice when it's really steep, but it's not that hot anymore. But I really do think about these other movements in terms of, if you build it, they will come. And in that movie, I keep thinking about it lately, Field of Dreams. I haven't seen it in so long, but it really strikes a chilling note with you. I should. This idea that Kevin Costner's character, he doesn't know why he's doing this. Why is he turning this cornfield into a baseball diamond, and he's inspired, and he's actually like hallucinating, and he's having a conversation with his inspiration, and which I don't remember which baseball player comes and visits him, and it's so beautiful. And I do think that sometimes I work on music, and I feel like I am having a conversation with people I'm inspired by that are sometimes no longer even, they're artists that are no longer even here, but I really want to continue their legacy and in what they started. And that's kind of what Kevin Costner is doing in that movie, is like, he wants to keep the game going, and he knows that he has to show up and build it. And so I think that what artists are going through with Spotify is like, it has to be in every industry other than, I mean, even people who have jobs probably feel like they're being exploited in the exact same way. They probably know how much money comes in to where they work, and then how much money goes out to them, and they deal with it. They show up and they do their work, and they make it work. And so that's really what it comes down to for me, is understanding that, like, it's an amazing technology for listening to music, super convenient. So why would I withhold my music from there? And again, the goal is to to stay locked into this process of writing the music, performing, getting better, experimenting. Even my podcast alone has gone through so many different iterations of me being, where did it start? It was like, different microphones. Then I was using my phones. I've every week is a chance to experiment. And now I'm in this other setup space in the office with a boom mic on the desk. And yeah, you keep going, and you try not to, and you work with a sense of lightness is my best way of putting it, if you can. I do get stressed out making a podcast. I always wonder what I'm going to say and if people like it, and I just have to I literally have to sit in this chair and do it, and I can't really worry about other people and their reception. I have to worry about it. Am I ready to do this? Or I have to not worry, period. I have to do it before I'm ready and not worry. So it's turning off the mind, and I love the process. So this last piece is, I'm naming it Princess of Bollywood. So it's makes use of the fact that I was experimenting with the setup and the loopers. So the piece starts with the loops have already been made, and then it's me singing into this microphone, and I guess I stumbled upon a happy accident that was possible. So the name explains it all, but so that I'm about to hit play on that. And so yeah, thanks again. Patreon.com/Feinberg. That's FIENBERG. Thank you again for watching or listening Elliott's podcast, The Long Cast, and we'll see you again soon. Okay, take care.